Most people believe confidence is something you are born with, but what if it is something you build one response at a time? Every conversation you have is shaping something. Your reputation, your influence, your future. And yet the one skill that holds it all together is the one we pay the least attention to: how we respond. Not what we say, how we say it. You can have all the right answers, but if you deliver them like you are unsure, hesitant, or asking for permission, no one hears the answer. They only hear your doubt. Confidence is not about volume, and it is not about pretending. Confidence is quiet clarity. It is the calm in your voice that says you are not here to prove anything. You are here to be fully present. That kind of presence does not come from faking it. It comes from practicing it, because the truth is, every response is a chance to show people who you are, a chance to align your words with your values, a chance to build trust, not by being impressive, but by being intentional. We have been trained to believe that silence is awkward, that we must fill every second with words. But what if the pause before your sentence is the most powerful part of what you say? What if people listen more closely when you are not rushing to be heard? This is not about scripting your life. This is about reclaiming your voice. In this guide, we will explore the habits, the choices, and the mindset to help you respond with clarity, conviction, and connection. Because the way you respond is never just about that moment. It is always about who you are becoming. Confidence is not destroyed by loud critics or harsh environments. It is slowly worn down by small habits that go unnoticed. The words we use without thinking, the tone we carry without realizing, the patterns we repeat without questioning, and unless we see them for what they are, these habits will quietly erode our presence every time we speak. The first habit is filler. We use them to buy time, to feel safe, to avoid the silence that makes us uncomfortable. Words like, they sneak in before we even know we are speaking. But every time we use filler, we dilute our message. We trade clarity for comfort. And when your message sounds uncertain, people assume you are uncertain. Silence feels risky, but it speaks louder than you think. Learning to pause instead of filling space is one of the most powerful shifts you can make. The second habit is uptalk. This is when your voice rises at the end of a sentence, as if you are unsure or asking for approval. It makes even your strongest statements sound like questions. It tells the listener you are not convinced of your own words. And if you are not convinced, why should they be? The shift here is simple. Let your tone go down at the end. Speak with finality, not with a question mark. The third habit is weak language. Phrases like, "I just wanted to check in," or "Does that make sense?" may sound polite, but they reveal insecurity. They tell others you are afraid of taking up space. They ask for permission to be clear. Replace them with firm alternatives. Say, "I wanted to check in," or "What are your thoughts?" Speak as someone who has something to say, not someone hoping to be accepted. Confidence is not about being loud. It is about being rooted. And rooting your speech begins by removing what shakes it. There is something most people fear more than speaking in front of a crowd. It is the silence right before they do. That small space between the question and the answer, between the thought and the word. That pause makes people panic. So they fill it with sounds, with syllables, with something that feels safe. It is not just about bad habits. It is about the human need to feel in control when we do not know what to say. But here is the truth. Filler words do not give you control. They take it away. The moment you speak with fluff, you are no longer leading the conversation. You are following your own fear. You are not speaking because you are ready. You are speaking because you are uncomfortable with waiting. And in that moment, the person listening can feel it. They may not know exactly what is wrong, but they know something is off. Your words are not landing. Your tone is not anchored. And it all started with that tiny sound you thought no one would notice. We have been trained to think that speech is about filling the air, but real communication is about presence, not noise. The strongest voices are not the ones that speak the most. They are the ones that know when not to speak. Silence is not weakness. It is intention. It is power under control. It tells the listener you are thinking. It tells them you are not afraid to take your time. It shows that your words are not thrown out just to fill a void, but delivered with weight and clarity. If you want to sound confident, the first word you speak should be your breath. That sounds strange, but stay with me. When someone asks you a question and you are not sure how to answer, do not reach for the closest noise. Do not let be your escape hatch. Instead, breathe. Let the pause be your anchor. Let that space be the evidence that you are present, not panicked. Your breath becomes the first signal that something thoughtful is about to come. We are not talking about long, dramatic silence, just a beat, a moment, a breath. That is all it takes. And in that breath, your mind catches up to your message. Your nerves settle. And your voice, when it comes, is not rushed. It is deliberate. The difference is real. One response says, I am scrambling. The other says, I am grounded. Now let us talk about what filler really is. It is not just words. It is hesitation. It is noise disguised as communication. Think of it like static on a radio. You might still hear the music, but it is muffled. It loses its sharpness. That is what fluff does to your message. It adds clutter to something that should be clean. You are not just saying more, you are saying less with more words. When you eliminate filler, you start serving your words straight. No ice, no extra fluff, just clarity. And people respond to clarity, they trust it, they follow it, because clarity feels safe. It feels strong. It feels like someone who knows what they are about. And that is what confidence really is. Not the performance of knowing everything, but the presence of someone who knows themselves. You might think silence makes you look unprepared, but the opposite is true. Silence makes you look composed. Imagine this. Someone asks you a question in a high-pressure meeting. Everyone turns to you. You pause. You take a breath. You look them in the eye and say, I have not run across that before, but here is what I know. That pause just earned you more respect than any rushed answer could have, because it showed that you did not fold under pressure. You held the moment. You owned the space. That pause is what separates reaction from response. Most people react. They blurt out what comes to mind, but people who respond do something different. They pause, they think, they choose, and that choice is what makes them stand out. It is what makes them memorable, and eventually, it is what makes them trusted. Now, here is the hard part. Getting comfortable with silence takes practice. It goes against every instinct. Your brain wants to fill the space. Your ego wants to prove something. But if you can sit with it, if you can resist the urge to speak before you are ready, you will discover something powerful. You will start to feel the shift in your conversations. People will lean in when you speak. They will wait for your words because they know they are not coming from panic. They are coming from purpose. So how do you start? Begin small. Notice the moments when you are about to use filler. Catch yourself. Replace the with a breath. Replace the you know with a pause. Practice in safe spaces. Practice in your emails. Practice in front of the mirror. Train your mind to trust the silence, and eventually it will become second nature. There is no secret formula to sounding confident, but there is a simple path. Speak less noise. Speak more meaning. Speak with intention, not reaction. And it starts by eliminating the fluff, because the most powerful thing you can say is not always your next word. Sometimes it is your willingness to wait for the right one. Your tone tells the truth even when your words do not. You might say something strong, but if your voice rises at the end, like you are unsure or asking for permission, the message loses its weight. That is what uptalk does. It puts a question mark at the end of your confidence. It makes every statement sound like doubt. And whether you realize it or not, people hear it. They hear the hesitation. They hear the uncertainty. And they respond not to what you meant, but to how you made them feel. We have all done it. We make a clear point, but our tone rises and it suddenly sounds like we are hoping they believe us instead of standing firm in what we say. Uptalk is subtle, but it is powerful. It can turn conviction into confusion. It can make a decision sound like a request. It is not just about how you sound, it is about how you lead. If your voice is asking for approval, then your presence is asking for permission. And the moment you ask for permission to be confident, you are no longer in control of the message. Confidence does not always come from what you say. It comes from how you end the sentence. A strong tone finishes on a low note. It closes the idea. It signals finality. It tells the listener, this is what I mean, and I am not asking you to validate it. I am inviting you to trust it. That small tonal shift can make a big difference. It separates the leaders from the followers. It turns suggestions into direction, and it creates a feeling of groundedness that people can rely on. Imagine someone telling you we can do that, but the tone rises like they are unsure. Now imagine they say the same words, but let the tone fall at the end. Same sentence, completely different experience. One sounds like a guess, the other sounds like a decision. This is not about being aggressive, it is about being clear. It is about aligning your tone with your intention so that what you say and how you say it are pulling in the same direction. The key to changing your tone is awareness. Start listening to yourself. Pay attention to the endings of your sentences, especially when you are speaking in high-stakes situations. Do you finish strong or do you trail upward? The moment you notice the uptalk, that is the moment you start to shift it. Practice ending with a lower note. Speak as if you are placing a period, not a question mark. Do it until it feels natural, until your tone matches your message without thinking about it. Another way to shift your tone is to borrow something familiar. Think about the way you ask someone to pass the salt. You do not raise your voice or sound hesitant. You say it plainly. Can you pass the salt? Simple, clear, direct. That is the tone you want when you are making a point or sharing an insight or leading a conversation. That natural certainty is more powerful than any performance because it does not sound rehearsed, it sounds real. And that is what people connect with, not just strength, but sincerity. When your tone drops with clarity, people listen, they follow, not because you force them to, but because they trust you are speaking from a place that is centered, not shaken, a place that is rooted, not reaching. That kind of tone does not need to shout. It does not need to prove. It just needs to finish with intention. So drop the question mark, control the tone, and speak like someone who knows what they mean. Because when your voice follows your values, every sentence becomes a statement of who you are. Words are not just tools, they are signals. They tell people how we think, how we feel, and how much we believe in what we say. You can say all the right things, but if your words are wrapped in hesitation, they will land with uncertainty. If you want to communicate with confidence, you have to choose words that carry weight, not heavy in complexity, but strong in clarity, not loud in volume, but firm in purpose. Because confident communication is not about sounding impressive. It is about sounding intentional. The first thing to notice is how often we use words that weaken our message without realizing it. One of the most common is the word just. It seems harmless, but listen to how it sounds when you use it. I just wanted to check in. I just think maybe we should consider. I just hope this makes sense. It is subtle, but the word just immediately puts you in a position of retreat. It makes your statement sound like an apology, like you are trying to minimize your presence, like you are stepping into the room but asking not to be noticed. That is not confidence. That is fear dressed up as humility. Now remove the word and say the sentence again. I wanted to check in. I think we should consider. I hope this makes sense. The message becomes stronger. You are not asking for permission to speak. You are showing up with intention. That one word changes the tone of your entire sentence. And over time, changing that one habit shifts how people perceive you. They no longer see someone trying to squeeze their voice into the room. They see someone who owns their space with quiet authority. Another phrase that kills confidence is, does that make sense? On the surface, it sounds like you are trying to be clear or helpful, but underneath it often comes from a place of insecurity. It is a way of saying, I am not sure I explained that well, or maybe I lost you somewhere along the way. And while you may not mean it that way, the listener hears the uncertainty. They hear the question and wonder why you are not sure of your own message. In some cases, it can even feel condescending, as if you are questioning their ability to understand something simple. Instead of asking, does that make sense? Shift your focus to connection. Ask, what are your thoughts? That changes everything. Now, you are not questioning yourself or their understanding. You are inviting them into the conversation. You are opening the door instead of checking if they are still following. What are your thoughts? Communicates respect. It invites dialogue. It builds trust. And most importantly, it leaves your message standing strong without weakening it at the end. The words we choose reflect the beliefs we carry. If you believe your voice matters, your language will reflect that. But if you are constantly softening your sentences, apologizing for your presence, or diluting your message with extra padding, people will sense that too. That is why confident speech is not just about what you say, it is about what you remove. It is about stripping away the clutter so that what is left is strong, clear, and true. Adverbs are another area to watch. Words like basically, literally, actually, honestly, we use them to add emphasis, but more often they just add noise. When someone says honestly, it makes you wonder if everything else they said was not honest. When they say literally, it usually means they are exaggerating. These words do not add strength, they add doubt. And doubt is the enemy of confidence. Try reading your sentences without them. Most of the time you will find the sentence works better without the extra word. It becomes more focused, more direct, more powerful. The fewer unnecessary words you use, the more impact your real message can have. It is like removing the fog so that people can see what you really mean. The goal is not to sound robotic or overly polished. The goal is to sound real, grounded, thoughtful. When you speak with intention, people feel that. They feel the weight of your presence. They feel the clarity of your thought, and they respond to it. Because confidence is not about dominating the conversation. It is about elevating it. It is about choosing words that build connection instead of insecurity. So pay attention to the language you use every day. In your emails, in your meetings, in your casual conversations, are your words backing you up or backing you down? Are they helping you stand firm or making you sound unsure? Start noticing the patterns, start removing the noise, and start replacing weak phrases with words that reflect who you really are. Speak as someone who believes in what they say. Not because you are trying to convince others, but because you are already convinced yourself. That is the difference. That is where confidence lives. Not in volume, not in force, but in quiet conviction. Because the way you speak tells people how to see you. And if your words carry confidence, so will your presence. There will always be moments when someone asks you a question and you do not know the answer. It happens in meetings and interviews, during presentations, even in casual conversations. And it is in those moments that your true confidence is tested. Because confidence is not about having every answer. It is about how you respond when you do not. Imagine this. You are a project manager presenting a new rollout plan to a room full of executives. Everything is going well until someone asks a detailed technical question about the software integration. You do not know the specifics. The room goes quiet. All eyes are on you. This is the moment where many people panic. They rush to speak. They try to fill the space. They start guessing, deflecting, or over-explaining. And in doing so, they lose the one thing they were trying to hold on to, trust. But you do something different. You breathe. You let the silence settle without fear. And then you say, I do not have the technical detail on that at the moment, but I will connect with our IT lead and get you a clear answer by end of day. In that sentence, you did not pretend, you did not panic, you owned what you knew, you clarified what you would do, and you communicated with control. This is how confident people handle uncertainty. They do not fill the moment with noise, they frame it with clarity. They trust that honesty paired with follow-through builds far more credibility than trying to sound smart in the moment. It is not about knowing everything, it is about knowing yourself. Another option you can use is to pull from your experience instead of data. Let us say you are a team lead and someone asks how a new policy will affect operations across all departments. Instead of saying, I am not sure, you respond with, in my experience managing similar transitions, the first week tends to reveal where the real bottlenecks are, and that is where I would focus first. That sentence does not dodge the question. It reframes it through what you know to be true. And more importantly, it shows that you have perspective, not just information. A third way to hold the moment is by using confident language, even when you admit gaps. Say things like, what I can tell you is, or from what I have seen so far, or I am confident. We can get clarity on that by, these phrases keep you in control. They shift attention from what you lack to what you can offer. Because people do not need you to know everything. They need to know they can count on you to navigate what you do not. This practice works in everyday life too. Imagine someone brings up a news story or complex topic you have not heard of. Instead of pretending or changing the subject, you say, "That is new to me, but I am curious to learn more." That small sentence holds integrity. It opens the door for connection instead of closing it with ego. And over time, that becomes your posture. You stop fearing what you do not know because you have learned how to move through it with grace. The truth is, the most trustworthy people are not the ones with all the answers. They are the ones who can stay grounded when the answers are not clear. They remain steady, not because they know everything, but because they know how to stand in the unknown. That is confidence. Not the loud performance of perfection, but the quiet strength of presence. So when the question comes and you feel the heat rise, do not rush to escape it. Breathe, own what you know, acknowledge what you do not, offer what you can. And remember that how you respond in that moment is what people will remember most. Every response you give is more than communication. It is construction. You are building something with every word, not just your relationships or your reputation, but your identity. The way you respond in moments of pressure, in moments of doubt, in moments of uncertainty is shaping the person you are becoming. You are either reinforcing fear or cultivating strength. You are either shrinking your presence or expanding your influence. This is not about being perfect. It is about being intentional. Because with every pause, every word, every choice to stay grounded, you are telling the world something important. You are telling them you are not here to impress. You are here to connect. You are not trying to perform. You are here to grow. And that growth begins not in what happens to you, but in how you choose to respond.